It's not just high streets that look the same. Try any city after dark. Plane arrived early. Time to check out the site before turning in. The joys of being a claims investigator. Yep, another misload. No matter how big the company, the mistakes keep happening. This time, confectionery with the wrong grade ingredient slipped through to wreak havoc on the unsuspecting public. A 12-year-old with a sweet tooth, anaphylactic shock, critical, parents at the bedside. Still, it keeps me in business. Some of their bigger depots turned 15 wagons round a night. That's clocked in, unloaded, reloaded, away. Some consignments ready on the pallets at the start of the shift. Others still to be picked, wrapped, loaded. 5 staff. Opportunities for error. So, the warehouse. Tidy, warm, foodstuffs. Where's the caramel? Here. Hello, hello, hello. That's interesting. Okay. What about the yard? Ooh, bit nippy tonight. And the incident happened in February. A cold and wet night. The team reported it had been unusually busy, and there was a new driver on site.
Double-checking the product's name, grade and pack size, and reading the information back to the customer to make sure everything...
The sales office had to be the most critical link in the chain. Their corporate video made it all seem crystal clear. Follow the procedure when taking the order, get a colleague to cross-check later, basic stuff. All about spotting anything new, be it quantity, delivery time, terms or the chemical itself. Details mattered. That boy could have died because someone had written 7 when they meant 9. "16 locations handling 12,000 deliveries a month. This is a big operation, and the vast majority, over 99%, go smoothly. It just takes one mistake, though, and you could have a toxic cloud on site, metal fatigue in an aircraft engine, a water treatment works with contaminated drinking water supplies. This time, a medium-sized upmarket confectioner. The order had been emailed on one of their own order forms. Oh, very pretty bloody dangerous if you ask me. The customer's stationery was the usual, looks good, works bad, you get when you let the creatives take over. The handwriting was just as bad. Caramel grade 359 had become caramel grade 357, with 80 times more sulfite content. Harmless to you and me, but not everyone. Eventually, the customer ended up with caramel grade 355, not 357. Same high sulfite content. There were a few cock-ups here. Questions had to be asked. And filmed. Time to meet the order taker.
I'm Jane Smith, and I work in the sales office. I mean, this was quite a new customer for us. I remember because they emailed in the form, and they had some nice artwork on it, so it stood out a little bit. Well, my colleague, you see, her little nephew had been sent home from school sick. I think he'd been involved in an accident. Yeah. Yeah, she left, so we were one down for that day. So when we were busy anyway, it just made everything really stressful, and you know that was a distraction. And that meant that it affected the cross-checking later in the day.
Obviously, the order hadn't been cross-checked. One down, after all. Jane had keyed the data in without checking back on previous orders from this customer. Distracted by Mary's news, maybe. Someone could have spotted the grade was wrong, but they didn't. And bad data was in the system.
Right, I'm called Ken Wood and I work in the warehouse. Well, it was a particularly cold night. It was very cold and really bad weather. So I was quite glad, in fact, to be able to go to the foodstuffs warehouse because it's quite warm in there. I don't know the company very well. They've had caramel before. I think they use it in their cakes. But it was quite tricky to see the label in the warehouse, especially when it's been rebadged.
I'd seen something worrying on that first night. Warehousemen have a habit of making life easy for themselves, marking rotation dates with homemade labels stuck willy-nilly. Our friend, Ken Wood, hadn't had a clear view of the label on the product itself. He just saw it was caramel and thought, that'll do me. Grade 355 now entered the chain. The labels cut out the loader too. The only hope now was that the driver, who was new to Brenntag, would see the problem. Problem was his car.
My name's Ben. I'm a driver. Well, it was a cold day. I was running late. The car didn't start. I couldn't get it going. I had to get my mate in from next door. And driving wasn't straightforward. It was icy roads. So I took my time, as a consequence of which I was late when I got to the depot. Well, when I finally did get to the depot, the wagon was loaded. I had to get off in order to get to the delivery place by 6 o'clock. So I pulled the curtain and jumped in a cab and off. I was off. You would expect a customer to check the stuff as it comes off the lorry. You'd expect them to check that it's what they'd ordered and it was the quantity that they'd ordered.
Yeah. Customers.
Well, like I said, we were late when we arrived, so they were keen to get it off the wagon so that they could use it in the early morning bake. Yeah, so they waved me through, they unloaded it, they signed for it, and I was off.
By the time the order had left the sales office, the misload was an accident waiting to happen and could only have been avoided had everyone down the line been super vigilant. The picker, the loader, the driver. 3 goalkeepers, if you like, except our picker scored an own goal too. Whoops. Lessons learnt.
Well, looking back, we should have been doubly careful being one down in the office. I actually didn't call the customer back, so he didn't double check everything. He'd emailed it through, so I thought it was all there, all the information was already there. I guess I was distracted because I was worried about Mary's little nephew being sick.
Looking back, I should have double checked the caramel grade, and I think the labelling in the warehouse could have been better.
Well, looking back, I should have checked the load against the paperwork, but I was new to the job, I was running late, and I didn't want to let Brenntag down.
Looking back, a 12-year-old almost died in a near-fatal case of anaphylactic shock on the other side of the country. Media go mad. Massive damage to Brenntag's reputation. Human error. Still, keeps me in business.